So, Christopher Bennett, Ava Health, Grand Junction, Mesa County, back today with a little review, a little breakdown of last week. So the highlight of last week was we had been waiting months to meet with the Mesa County Planning Commission to request an approval to amend our conditional use permit at our flagship site up in Molina, the Molina Center. And we had, drum roll, a 6-0 unanimous recommendation for approval. So, yay, a lot of work, a lot of preparation went into that. And there's a lot to unpack there. And so I wrote this week on this idea of embedding into a community, building with, not for, a community. And so it's a really interesting reflection, and the Planning Commission meeting, I think it gave me a lot of insight into, this was never about zoning for us. However, getting through the Planning Commission public hearing in the way that we did was very different than my experience as well as my partner's experience with going through this in the past. A couple of those highlights are, we had 2 neighbors show up. So first off, if you've ever been through zoning and public hearings and things like that, you tend to hear of, even before the public hearing, you've had 97 comments about why this is not a good idea from the community, and a lot of vitriol, a lot of hate, a lot of stigma, a lot of misunderstanding, Facebook groups that get put up with hundreds of members, people threatening lawsuits, right? Like just a lot coming out, and we didn't have any of that. So these 2 neighbors that showed up, I've had multiple conversations with prior to the public hearing. So first off, it was very unique to have 2 neighbors show up and not 47 neighbors show up. As well as the questions that they had and the comments that they made in the public hearing were not fear-based. They weren't angry. They literally asked how many cars were going to be coming up and down our driveway every day, as well as if we had plans to build more buildings on the property site. That is fascinating. Anyways, how does this lead into my reflection on embedding within a community? For 15 months at this point, we have spent time asking questions. We have come to Mesa County. We have asked the key community stakeholders, talk to me about what's the hardest thing you're experiencing right now as it relates to behavioral health. And we listened. We didn't make assumptions. We didn't come in and say, no, like this is really what's going on, and we know better than you, and we've been doing this forever. We listened. People continued to talk about the same things that we've continued to talk about. Lack of access, fragmented, hard to navigate care systems, right? Gaps in service, lack of collaboration, lack of communication, right? Like a lot of these issues are the central themes of what we've continued to hear. How does that fit into my reflection about this week? There wasn't anybody there denying the fact that this was a needed service. I can almost guarantee you, though, that if we hadn't been doing that work, if people had not been seeing our faces, if people did not hear us asking questions, if we were not present at the tables, if we were not on the committees, if we were not front and center saying, tell us what your experience is, and let's co-create. Let's build with, not for, this community. Let's be a part of this community. If we had just rolled in and said, Ava Health, we're here, here's what we're doing, get on board, I guarantee you there would have been pushback. However, the support we received was Department of Public Health showing up, saying on record, I want this on record, that we support Ava Health coming to this community. The mayor of Grand Junction saying, I have a direct relationship with this group. I have experienced their passion, their service, their value add to this community, their professionalism. And I am actually in a place where I want to engage in leasing them some properties for transitional living properties. We had additional community key stakeholders from City Council that didn't even have to get up and say anything because you could read the room. So this week for me, the real reflection is in our ability to embed ourselves into a community, to be a part of a community, to not make assumptions about what people need, but to ask the questions and to be humble enough to listen is really the key reflection from this week. I'll see you next time.
Hello, Ava Health.